In this episode, we're going to be talking about UX UI design best practices. We're going to do this by looking at websites that demonstrate good UX design, and we're going to be looking at websites that demonstrate poor UX design. We're going to be picking out specific patterns and breaking down what makes a good UX design pattern, and we're going to also be looking at the bad UX design patterns to understand the differences and compare between the two. If you like what you're seeing, please like and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement means a lot and it helps me create more content. If you have any ideas on what videos I should create next, please post them in the comments and I'll be checking all the comments and looking for ideas to create the next episode. So without further ado, let's get into it. First website we're going to be looking at is Best Buy's website. Now, this is an example of a website that has a lot of pages. They have a lot of pages and they have a lot of subpages. So they need a good way to organize the sitemap and the hierarchy of the website. If you've read Don Norman's book, The Design of Everyday Things, he talks about the header navigation here as a mental map or a mental model of the space. So think about if you were to go into a physical space, so if you go into home hardware, you know the boundaries of the store, and inside the store you have signage telling you what is contained in each aisle. So this is what the header navigation does, because in the digital space, there is no mental map of what exists. So your header navigation is kind of like your map or your home base to getting around the website or the store. So if we look at this header navigation, first thing we see right away, there's a logo. So I know that I'm looking at Best Buy's website. I can search it and I can shop by brand, shop, deals, and services. If I were to click shop, if you notice, there's a dark modal that appeared to make everything but the header navigation darker. So that's forcing the user or pulling the user's attention or focusing him on the navigation. Each one of these navigation items or these tabs has multiple states. So there's a default state, there's a hover state, so there's this darker border that appears or darker background, text color changes. And if I click on it, there's also an active state. I can drill down within these items. So let's say go to gift cards. And also now I can see another pattern to help with navigation, and that's breadcrumbs. So breadcrumbs tell you where you are within the experience. So you have your navigation, you got your breadcrumbs. So I went from home to gift cards, and now I'm looking at gift cards. What happens if we click on a specific gift card? Let's say shop e-gift cards. Okay, that actually takes me to a different website. Let's go to PlayStation. So now I'm in home, video games, PlayStation gift cards. I can filter and I can sort these items. So I have my navigation, I have my breadcrumbs, and that tells me where I am within the experience of the website. So great example of navigation. Moving on. Example of a website that does poor UX, they're notorious for it, Craigslist. First of all, no logo, no obvious logo. Like this looks like a text link, like it almost looks like a bigger header or a bigger page title. So I'm not sure if this is the website I'm looking at. Is this the logo or is this just another title like one of these titles? Can be a little confusing. Second point, there's no navigation. It's just a bunch of links tossed in front of you. So I'm not really sure where my attention's supposed to go. So compare that with Best Buy's. There was the header navigation telling you which aisles to go down in. This is just like a free-for-all. You have events. You have Craigslist app, about Craigslist, and then you have all these other things in there. So I don't know. Let's click on sell in mobile, for example. Then you have the header navigation changing completely. So now I have this header nav or this filter navigation on the top, and you have a logo change. So now I'm looking at CL. Sometimes as designers we assume that a user is paying their full attention to our website, but chances are this user is browsing multiple pages at a time, and B, they can get distracted by real world events. So they can be looking at a website and maybe they're cooking dinner. They're going to go attend to dinner or to their child and then come back to the website. So that's why it's so important to have a consistent logo on all the pages of your website. So if a user gets distracted from your page and comes back, he instantly knows what page he's looking at. So if I were to get distracted and come back, now I see the CL. I'm not really sure what CL stands for. Can be confusing. Then you have this filter, which if I click it, there's nothing on this page here telling me that the filter is actually active. So bad UX. And in the websites that will be coming up, you'll see examples of good filter navigation. So let's take a look at the Ordinary website, for example. Again, you can see right away, consistent header navigation. I'm looking at the Ordinary. Without doing anything, I know I'm looking at the Ordinary website. I know that they sell skincare, makeup, and hair and body products. I haven't even looked anywhere on the website. So I already know where I am, what they're offering, and where I can navigate to. So let's go to skincare, for example, and I don't know, let's go to eye care. Sure. So you got breadcrumbs telling you where you are within the experience. You also have a page title. So I'm in the Ordinary, I'm looking at eye care, and this is what I could filter by. Let's say we click on signs of aging as a filter. Now you have an active state of the filter. So I know that this signs of aging is active. So I can also move in and out of the filter. If I select multiple items, I get 2 active tags. So telling me that this filter is active. It also shows you here a number of how many results appear on this page. And you can also filter your results. So within a few clicks, you know where you are, know where to get to, and you can filter the results that you land on. If I hover on any of these items, there's a different state. There's a hover state. And this indicates that this item affords an action. So that's another concept, again, from Don Norman's book, The Design of Everyday Things. I highly recommend buying this book if you haven't read it already. Affordances talks about, it's like a visual indication that this item affords an action. So for example, if you look at a light switch, usually you have like a light switch that flicks up and down, or there's like the 2-button light switch. So when you look at that light switch, it automatically tells you or giving you visual cues on how to interact with it. And that's what affordances are. So this is giving me a visual cue that I can interact with this, and it's saying quick view. So I already know a modal is going to pop up, or I'm going to be taken to a smaller page. If I click on it, modal pops up. I didn't have to click on it because the item is already indicating to me what is going to happen. So that's a good example of affordances. Let's keep moving. Next website we got here is a website that looks like it was designed when they first came up with websites. And not to hate on it, I'm just going to be picking out what doesn't work about it. One is the navigation. I know I can tell this is the navigation, and the title is outside of the navigation. That's kind of not common. If I scroll down, I don't see the navigation anymore. So if I were to scroll down, go do something and come back, again, I have no idea what page I'm looking at now. Second thing, there's a lot of things competing for your attention. The background on its own is competing for my attention. All these gradients and colors are competing for my attention. So right away, visually, there's a lot happening. So my eyes, there's nothing is guiding my eyes. My eyes are just kind of like looking everywhere and they're scanning everything. So it's kind of straining. Third thing is this text is tiny. I almost guarantee, or I'm very positive that most people that land on this, they're not going to be reading this text. And if you have some sort of visual impairment, this text might be hard to read. So I think this text should be bigger. Fourth, there's multiple button styles. So you have this is one button style, this white and dark text, black button, second button style, gradient, third button style, white on orange that disappears when you hover on it, fourth button style, orange with white text, fifth button style, and then you have the links. 6 button styles. You have 6 button styles on one website. Usually you have your primary, secondary, and tertiary button. This website has 6 button styles. So it seems like everybody that comes on here just creates a new button style, or they're just pulling components from different plugins and not changing the UI of it. So then you get all these other button styles. I'm not really sure why there's multiple button styles. Another thing here is there's no hover states. Like if I hover on this button, there is no hover state. So I'm not really sure if this button is clickable right away. This one at least has the cursor change. This should at least have the cursor change. It says play and pause animation, but nothing happens. And it doesn't go back to the default state. It just stays active. So is the animation playing? Has it been paused? What is happening? You also have this edit this page button, which clearly is for administrators. And I'm not really sure why the average user should be seeing this button. If there's a way to hide it, it would probably be better. Maybe create a different URL for administrators where this button is visible. But for the average website user, I don't think this button should be visible. You have page last changed by this person. Sometimes you have components on a website that say, or a blog, for example, that say page last changed by a date. And you have a date there because it gives you some indication of recency or activity on this website. So when you see this page was last changed yesterday, you know that this website is active and it's not dead. But who it was changed by, I'm not really sure what value that provides to the user. Also, background changed by, I'm not really sure what, like for me as a user, this adds no value. I'm not really sure what is the value for adding that there. Again, there's lots of things competing for your attention. If you look at the background, like the text now has to have a box color or like a background color, sorry. The text now has to have a background color because if it didn't have a background color, you wouldn't be able to see it. And because there's so much happening, it's very easy to miss this text. It's so easy to miss this text. So yeah, there's just tons of examples here of why this is not good UX design or UI design for that matter. So I'm going to stop hating on them for a bit and keep moving on. If anybody here is from Yale School of Art, let's talk. I'd love to give a shot at redesigning this website. That would be fun. But yeah, a website team that they're very well known for good UX and good UI design is, of course, Airbnb. They do design very well. So if you want to look at their website for examples of good UI design, they're definitely a good place to be looking. First thing you could see is your navigation, consistent navigation. I got my logo, and it's stuck at the top. So even if I go and get distracted and come back, I know I'm looking at the Airbnb website. I know what experiences I'm browsing. I can go look at tiny homes. I can look at tree houses. I can look at domes. Okay, so I'm looking at properties, and it's telling you the price by night. So I know I'm looking at properties that are probably rentals. Very obvious. I can toggle between a map and a list view very easily. And they recently added this passbook or passports. And this is a very good example again of affordances. So if I hover on this, the animation here is like a pop-up or something is opening. So I'm already anticipating something opening. I'm already anticipating a modal opening or this book getting bigger or something because, yeah, because that's what the animation is indicating. That's what it's saying. This is the action I afford, is an opening action. Great example of affordances. So I can also flip through pictures of the property, and I can like it. So I can do multiple actions and very easily within this tiny card. I can get to know the owner. I can look at their property. I can bookmark it if I really like it, if I'm browsing multiple properties, and get back to it later. And I can actually view the property. Very good example of UX design. Let's keep moving. Lipton. This is unfortunate because this is a global brand. So it's kind of sad to see. First and most obvious thing is this is clearly an image. And why that's bad is because if I'm using a screen reader, let's say I have some sort of visual impairment and I need to use a screen reader, the screen reader is not going to be able to parse this text. So if I'm using a screen reader, I don't even know what the page title is. Because Love Your Heart, yeah, I can see that's the page title, but there is no actual text like in the HTML that says this is the H1. So if I'm using a screen reader, I don't know what the page title is. That's one. Let's scroll. The header navigation is stuck, so I think that's good. Easy to see where I am, but here's the thing. The chevron, the white chevron, and the white search bar, I don't think that's accessible. White on this yellow would be very hard to see for someone who has a visual impairment. So I think a better idea would be make these icons black. So let's go into one of these categories. Hot teas. So this is a good example of when you're putting text on images, it's important, or it's better to have a gradient between them. And I'll explain why. So if this image here contained a lot of white color, let's say I were to upload a picture that is just a white background, this text might then become hard to read. So then you already automatically created a bottleneck when you're updating the website. So every time somebody updates this image, they have to make sure that this text and the image work well together. So if you're going to have text laid on top of image, a good idea is to add a gradient between them, or add a darker modal between them. So you can have the text, and then you have like a black to 0 opacity gradient, so you can see the full image at the top, but right behind the text is a dark background. That way, if someone were to change this header component's image, no problem. They can change it because the gradient or the modal behind the text is always going to be there, so you're never going to have legibility issues. So a good example of a company that does this is Spotify. If you look at the album arts, I know they used to do this, like if they have a text on the album art, they usually added a gradient, and that's how they got around that. So that's definitely a good point to remember, is text on image, you need something between them so that the text doesn't get washed out. Especially if other people are going to be updating the website, you don't always want to be worrying and checking that this component works with that image. So yeah. Next website, Duolingo. Duolingo is a website that does onboarding very well. So I've landed on the page. I already know this is Duolingo, clearly a language website. This is clearly my primary action, and this is my secondary action. So I don't even need to scroll. Right when I land, I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to click Get Started. Okay, I want to learn Spanish. Where did I hear about Duolingo? Or let's say YouTube. Continue. Why am I learning the language? Travel. I'm going to be a regular learner. Okay. Allow. Notifications. I don't want to sign up right now. And I say, I'm learning for the first time. And I'm already put into the lesson. So from the minute I land on the website, I just have to go through an onboarding process that's a few clicks to personalize my experience. And I'm already in the lesson. And they do a great job at gamification. Like they already have like hearts here, like this is your streaks, I guess, or like number of mistakes you're allowed. So the boy, El Nino. See, each mistake costs 1 heart. They do a good job at gamifying the experience. You can go through streaks. You can compete with friends. They got nice. They got nice UI. They got nice illustrations. They make the experience of learning a language fun. So they do onboarding really well, and they do gamification super well. Let's go to the next website, Dropbox. You're going to notice a similar pattern here to the first website we were looking at, which is Best Buy. So when I land right away, again, you have your header navigation that is stuck to the top. You got a logo and Dropbox. So they're associating Dropbox with this logo. If I were to hover on an item, did you notice that? That there's that dark modal again, which forces your attention on the navigation, which is what you want to do. You want to orient the user to where they're going to go within the website experience. You have different states for hover, right? So let's say we go into store and organize. Now you got your secondary navigation. So this helps you navigate within the sub page of the website. They also have a consistent primary button style. So that's your primary button, secondary button, and let's say this is the tertiary button. So they got almost 3 button styles. I would argue this is just a text link button style. It's almost 2 button styles. Your primary, secondary, not 6 button styles like we saw on the Yale School of Art website. The page is very clear. So this is clearly the title. It's not an image. This is actual text. So if a screen reader was going to parse this website, it can actually read and figure out which title is the H1 and which is the H2. Look at the flow here. So my eyes are going down, reads here. There's space almost for my eyes to keep going and flowing to read the next paragraph. Very good example of good UX and good UI as well. The text size is large enough to easily read. No accessibility issues. Definitely a good example of good UX and good UI design. Moving on, Goodreads. This one is kind of surprising, to be honest. One, if you haven't noticed it already, there's no header navigation. So you land on this, you have no idea where to go on this website. Sign up, continue with Facebook for what? Like, what am I doing on this website? Like, are you selling me something? Am I going to be a creator on this website? Like, what is happening? I have no idea where to go. I know it's Goodreads, but I don't know what Goodreads is. I'm guessing it's something to do with books, but that's all I know is it's something to do with books. Okay, let's go into business books, for example. Now you got a header navigation. That's so weird. A header navigation is very important for your navigation to stay consistent across pages. Because when you don't know where you are in the website experience, you're always going to go back to your header navigation. So that needs to be consistent across the experience. You can't be changing header navigations in different pages of the website. Your navigation needs to stay consistent. So it's strange that they have no header navigation to including a header navigation. Okay, you browse and you have something communities. So these are business books, I'm guessing. Okay, so this is one of the books. And, okay, I'm guessing I'm going to buy this book. Okay, so it's Kindle. Okay, so I could buy this Kindle book. They have, so far, 3 button styles. They have almost like 2 primary button styles. And this secondary button style, which is black text with a green border. And you also have black text with a gray border. So 4 button styles. 1, 2, 3, 4. kinda irregular if you, especially even if you count these tags as buttons, but let's count them as tags. I think it's more common to have primary, secondary, tertiary. Maybe you have two styles of primary buttons, but that's less common. Usually it's primary, secondary, and tertiary button styles. So there's no way to quickly view this book too. Like, I can't see what's inside. It's kind of confusing, to be honest, especially when this space is a huge space for an ad. Strange. I think the main thing for me with this website is the inconsistent navigation. That navigation needs to be consistent at all times. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you gained some information or some valuable information from this episode. If you liked what you saw in this episode, please like and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement means a lot to me. If you have any ideas of what videos I should create next, please post them in the comments and I'll be checking those. And hope you had a good time today. And I'll catch you in the next video. See ya.